All right, what a day for lessons just about keeping it simple. Buying earnings winners and shorting pump and dumps. The most logical trade is often the best trade. I am short PTRA from the 150s and is now in the 120s. It looks like it's going to collapse again. This is no different than PGSY, which also went from roughly 50 cents to $1.30. It too had a first red day, and look how it did on the second red day. So PTRA, blatant pump, first red day. I fully expect lower lows tomorrow. I don't know if it gets down to 120, 110, or even under $1, but I am short from the 150s. And that was a damn good alert because shorting pump and dumps on weakness works. Let me go over something real quick before we get to all that. Profitly, this is the dashboard. Those of you who know, we have the guru content on the left-hand side, and now we have user content where you guys can post your own blog posts, watch lists, and now you can even post your own video lessons to help make you better traders. You know, talk about what you do right, talk about what you do wrong, so you can go back and look, and you can say, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of cool. And you can look at other people's videos. This community is very strong with over 75,000 traders, the largest trading community that I know of, and everyone is posting some cool stuff, some watch lists, some thoughts. I actually have to click on the more button to see my post from a little while ago, just a few hours ago. I wrote this: simple works, as PTRA and MEET prove. Meat has been spiking to 230 now, roughly a 24% winner since my multiple dip buys at 186 a few days ago. Memorize this earnings pattern, and this is the earnings pattern. This is on timothysykes.com. If you go there, the multi-day penny stock earnings breakout pattern for longs. Happens again and again. You can see here on DEAR, it had a big gap up. It consolidated for a day, and then day 3, day 4, after the initial spike, you get further follow-up spikes. Let me show meat, just in case you don't get it. It has the spike up day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. Actually, this is day 7. But the cool thing is I was buying it in here in the 180s. And I was thinking that it was just going to retest 2 and possibly break out. And now it has. And some people are like, oh my God, are you pumping it? I'm not even in it. I sold it too soon, as I almost always do. But the pattern works, and I'm kind of glad that I sold it too soon so that you can see it's not me giving buy alerts. I'm not pumping it up. It's going up on its own. This is the earnings breakout pattern, so freaking memorize it. But that's just one thing. PTRA is a 13% winner so far for my short. Now it's like a 15 or 16% winner. But this is a classic pump pattern, and you guys need to see this. My website isn't working on one of these browsers that I have. Oh, there it is. So this is a post I did, I guess, 2 years ago now. Wow, it's crazy. 4 live penny stock trades on video, my tribute to a true legend. One of the legends died, so I wrote this post, and I showed this basic strategy, and I highlighted several of my students who were doing well with this strategy, and it was very similar to this GNIN, which is very similar to this play on DOMK and ECAU. And it's the same freaking pattern almost every single time. Obviously, there's slight variations. Nothing is exact. But, this is the same kind of earnings winner. PTRA is the same kind of pump and dump. Look at this. 1, 2, 3 on the 4th day, big red day. And it went from basically 60 cents and it gapped up to 80 cents, up to $1.50 and back down. So basically, it tripled from the 50 cent to $1.60 area. PGSY just a few days ago went from 40 cents to $1.20. Same exact kind of triple. This is not random coincidences. This is how pump and dumps work. It had its first red day, and then it continued going red, and I fully expect PTRA to do the same. This will be under $1 a share soon because it is a worthless piece of junk. It is only up because it is being promoted. My first millionaire student wrote a good post today on it, and he talked about the mailer. And this is the mailer that people are seeing. Look, it could hold 2.42 billion and yet to be tapped oil. And, the disclosed budget is $150,000. This is a pump. It is worthless, okay? This company has very little cash, very little revenues. This is the longer term chart. It's crap. And so you can short it. And I'm sorry that there's not more shares to short. I don't control the shares to short. All I can do is teach you the patterns. And I'm so proud of some students, Moses, and Matt. Everybody whose name starts with an M has done well the past 2 days. Moses shorted PTRA before me at 159. That was freaking awesome. And Matt is still long meat. He's up 40 cents, so 25%. A Kashik trader was in at 198, out at 226. Did better than me. You will actually shorted TTHI and made some good money. Skull, I like this. He is short PTRA at 140, so he's up like 10 cents. Average for tomorrow's panic. Perfect pattern straight out of your DVDs, Tim. Yeah, no shit. A lot of people are like, I don't need your DVDs. I'm just going to do this on my own. Why would you hate on education? Why would you ignore patterns that I've worked so hard to catalog over 15 years? Time and again. I totally missed PGSY. Michael Good, my first millionaire student, nailed it. But I am nailing PTRA. And this is cool. Skull says, freaking beautiful. Thanks for preparing us for these patterns. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot more people in chat, but I am so focused on this trade. I don't have time to copy and paste everything, but you guys can go back and look. The whole chat is archived. There's many more people who have been long me and shorting PTRA. Diamond Dave, I like this comment saying about my How to Make Millions DVD, best $297 you'll ever invest. It certainly beats college and university fees. I think the sales from the How to Make Millions is in the 700,000s now. It is. Because it all goes to charity. That's why I share the sales of this DVD. I now have an official charitable foundation. We're going to be doing some great stuff in the coming months. We've already done some great stuff, but I want to do more. So I'm teaching, I'm giving money away, I'm showing you these patterns. Please, please, please study. Please, please, please learn. I hate it when, I see people, yeah, they're thanking me. Congrats, you called PTRA all day. I mean, here was my initial, where was it? My initial short right here was at 11:30 in the morning. I shorted 10,000 blatant pump. Yesterday I had a big midday dip but recovered. The more times it tries, it could finally be the end. And then I link, the blog post that I just showed you. Yesterday there was also an expose, and PGSY failed in the same area. Goal is to make 15 to 30% in the next 1 to 2 days. Well, I'm already up. Let's see, 1.55 minus 1.29 divided by 1.55. So it's already a 17% winner. So that's pretty sweet. I actually covered some after about 2.5, 3 hours because it looked like it might bounce in the 140. So I covered some of my position, and then I added more later into the close when it actually, somebody took out, there was a 70,000 share bidder at 143. The promoter was like trying to hold it up, and somebody took that out and sold or shorted into it, and that was my sign that this thing is probably going to collapse. So I shorted as much as I could borrow from my high net worth broker, and so I'm short like 14,000 shares. Again, small in the grand scheme of things, but it's the education. Even if you have a smaller account, and let's say, Interactive Brokers didn't have shorts this time, but they probably will next time. I know they had some PGSY, and they had some AREN, which was a pump and dump that Michael Good made $25,000 on. So you have to try every day for the shares to short, accept the fact that sometimes you're not going to get the borrows that you want, but at least you can learn. And it's okay to cover some. I know some people think like, oh, you have to buy all at once and sell all at once. I like to take partial positions. I shorted, I was patient with it, but when it, kind of looked dubious, I covered some of my position. I'm going in and out of this thing all day, and then I'm really adding to my position into the close when the price action is much better. So trading is not black or white. You're not at a casino where you have to bet on black or red or a certain number and you double your money or you lose your money. There's many different grays in between. There's 50 shades of gray. And, you can add to your position. You can lessen to your position. Don't ever let anybody tell you you have to go all in at once and all out. It's okay to reduce a position size if you're not sure during, the trading, and then add to the position, take an even bigger position later in the day when it is working. And, that's how I trade. That's how I've always traded for 15 years. That's how I traded when I made millions of dollars before I ever got started teaching. So this is how I teach, take it or leave it. This is how I trade. This is how I've made my millions. I know it's not a perfect strategy. I know sometimes you miss the trade, sometimes there's no shares to short, but hopefully you can learn that this is repetitive. This kind of pump will happen again and again and again. I believe these pumpers, their last pump was BLKG, which also went up for a few days. 4 big green days followed by a big collapse. And this is going to keep happening with different promoters. So you had better learn that this will keep happening, and hopefully you'll be better prepared next time. I know a lot of people were just totally unprepared, and some people literally think that I'm like manipulating this stock or like pushing it down when I'm taking such small positions. I'm fully transparent with my position size. There are a lot of traders out there who take big ass positions, and they're not transparent, they don't post on Profitly, and you really should pay more attention to those of us who are transparent, and you see our trades, you see our commentary all day. These are my trades, but I'm also giving commentary all day long. And I'm talking about how I'm loving this, and obviously, I got a little excited towards the close. But I also admit, when I was worried, at 3 o'clock ish, it's okay. We're all human. You don't have to be totally perfect. I get a lot of emails about this where they're like, you're too early, you're too late. It's not an exact science. Sometimes, yeah, I am going to be too early. Sometimes, should I have covered? No. I guess in hindsight, I should have just held firm, but I was a little scared. My short was actually dead on. And I will say, some of you guys who are asking me, why did I short? Well, again, I know that, this is probably going to be a quick runner. The budget isn't that huge. It's probably either going to end today or tomorrow or Monday. So knowing that, and knowing that there are a lot of shorts waiting in the wings for the slightest bit of weakness, this is my sign. And this has always been my sign. If you watch my DVDs going back to Tim Raw, I love looking at this first dip here, because when you have this first dip and, this dip failed and the promoters, held it up and squeezed the shorts, this is the sign that, there's probably going to be more dips, so I'm not shorting it into perfect strength. I'm shorting it after it has already had like this little fake out crash. And you'll find that if you look through my DVDs, especially Penny Stocking Framework, the new rules of penny stocking part 2, I show pump after pump that I've shorted. And if you look through the catalogs and you look through the archives and actually do the work that a lot of people that, want easier answers, they don't want to go back and look at the past, which is their own fault. And I think that's a big fault. I like shorting after this, big intraday dip the next day, because this is a sign that, it's getting ready to crack. And sure enough, when I'm shorting in the 150s, I didn't catch the exact top of the 160s. I'm never trying to catch the exact top. I'm trying to, judge when might it crack. What are some signs that it might crack? If you go to google.com right now and type in Timothy Sykes $1,000,000 pattern, you will find an old blog post from 2010, because I have been cataloging this stuff what feels like forever. And I show a few charts. I don't know I guess this will work. So, these are some old pumps from years past that I was shorting. Oh, I wish I could do HHW over again. Thinkorswim had shares to short. I was short 35,000 shares. And the thing dropped from 2.8 to 1.3. I could have made 50 grand that day. And I made like 5. I covered like right here, like a bitch. But the point is that, it was fading before the big crash happened, okay? This was NXTH. I made like 12 grand on it from a Whole Foods. But this one wasn't fading. This was just an absolute crack. This one too, absolute crack off of new highs. So sometimes it happens, absolute cracks. But even right here, ZN, it was fading a little bit before the big crash. CLRH, they had a mailer out. And so this day was when the insiders could sell. So CLRH was a blatant pump and dump where they sent the mailer out for 2 weeks before the insiders could sell, and then the insiders could sell, and look what it did, 175 to 25 cents all in 4 days. So go back and look through the archives of my blog. Go back and look through the archives of my DVDs and video lessons. You might be surprised at how many of these I have cataloged and profited off of. And it's really nice to be able to, put this whole archive together. No other trader, no other teacher in the world has looked at this specific pattern as much as I have, nor have they profited as much or as regularly. I guarantee you there are traders who bet much bigger than me and they have made more in terms of dollar amounts, but they haven't had any students making money, nor have they put together this whole kind of library and these archives, which is what I'm really best at. You have to face what you're good at and what you're bad at. I am not the best trader in the world. I will gladly admit that. I have made a lousy $4.3 million. And I know that sounds amazing because I started with just a few thousand, but looking at all of these plays, year after year after year, these are the shorts, and I have so many earnings winners, MET, RITT, LAKE, FORD. Just in the past few weeks, those are 4 plays. And I underestimated every single one of them. And yet, out of all of these, I've made on a small account this year roughly $20,000 in the past few weeks. So I'm doing something right, but utilize me for what I'm best at. And that is cataloging this, archiving it, and teaching it, and showing you when these patterns happen again and again and again. And they will continue to happen again and again and again. And the question is not will they happen, but will you be prepared? These are my percentage gains in the past few years, okay? Trading with a small account. Next year, I'm going to go back to trading with just $12,000. No big time trader ever does that because it's all about ego and the thrill of the big score for them. For me, I get more excited and more fulfillment when my students have the big score. And that's why my teaching business is booming. That's why I'm the only one who has several millionaire students. So utilize me for my teaching. Don't necessarily utilize me for my trading because I'm always going to cover too soon. I mean, look at this chart of HHWW. I was shorting this, I want to say like right here at like 260 or 270. Like I nailed the crack. And I was covering it right into this panic thinking, it was just a fake out and not giving it enough time. So after, I don't know how many hundreds of pumps, I'm finally starting to have patience, even though I'm still, covering some and playing it safe intraday, but then I can re-add to my position later in the day. With this one, I just covered too quickly. And I guess making $5,000 or $6,000 is what I made isn't bad in a day, but when you can make 50,000, that's how bad of a trader I am. That's why when I say, "Oh, I've made $4.3 million," it's not because I'm the best trader and it's not because you can't make 4.3. I probably, if I traded very well and I followed all my rules and patterns and didn't get emotional, I would guess that I could have, should have, would have made 10 or even 15 million over the years. But you can't look at it like that. I mean, I can't go back to HHWW. I still look at this chart and I feel regret, but all you can try and do is learn from your mistakes of the past. I nailed this one, NXTH. I was shorting it from a freaking Whole Foods, and this was a Shaquille O'Neal pump and dump, and he sent me a cease and desist letter, and the stock later crashed to less than a penny of a share. I turned out to be 100% right, and Shaquille O'Neal disappeared, and then he pumped some other penny stock. And he keeps doing it because no one really cares, except me. But these patterns will keep happening, whether I'm at a Whole Foods or in New York or in LA or traveling. FORD was an earnings winner, and I was trading it from Amsterdam a few weeks ago, and I made nearly $10,000 from the Hotel Del Europe. This is the beauty of trading. This is the beauty of these patterns when you have a pattern that you know very well. And, as you learn this game, as you specialize in your own patterns, if you follow Tim Grittani and you're shorting morning spikes like he loves to do, that's fantastic. I've tried that pattern. It doesn't work for me. I almost always get squeezed or I get too emotional and I cover too quickly. This is more my pattern. So you have to choose, see what patterns work, learn from millionaire traders, Learn from those of us who are transparent and show all our trades openly. I don't know how you learn from anybody who's not transparent. They can say, "Look, I did this, I did this." Well, show me your track record. Show me 15 years. Show me 20 years. It's ridiculous how these teachers these days, they've been trading for what, a few years and they don't even show everything. Anyways, this is the play. PTRA, watch it tomorrow. Even if you're not short, please watch this and see. Maybe it bounces. Maybe the promoter is watching this and he's going to be like, screw you, Sykes, I'm going to hold this up. That's always possible. I'm short from the 150, so it's going to be very tough for me to lose money on this. And I have a feeling that, the first red day tomorrow could be an absolute collapse. We will see. Nothing is guaranteed. Never be so cocky into thinking that 100% something's going to happen. But definitely learn patterns and see when you think the odds are going to be in your favor. And the odds are in my favor shorting PTRA, just like the odds were in my favor dip buying MEET in the 180s here. This is not random. It's not luck. It's not fraud. It's recognition of historical patterns repeating over and over and over again. So are you going to be prepared? Are you going to study my DVDs? Are you going to study my video lessons? Are you going to join in on now the 2 to 3 or sometimes even 4 webinars per week that my trading challenge students get? Not just for me, but also Tim Grattani, Michael Good, and Mark Crook. In between us, we've all made $10 million. So you have to choose how much you want to study, what's your commitment level, how well will you be prepared? If you haven't looked through, let's say you've looked through 5 earnings winners as opposed to someone who's seen 50, as opposed to somebody who's seen 500, who do you think is going to be best prepared for the next earnings winner? You have to go back and look at past charts to be best prepared for future plays. That's what it comes down to. And that is why I have so many DVDs and so many video lessons, because I am the library of chart patterns. And this is your library card. So please utilize this library. Don't make it like a real life library where we have so many libraries all over the world and they sit collecting dust because most people never go to their libraries and never realize how much useful information is out there. And they sit in their small corner of the world and they say, oh, success will never come to me. It's unrealistic to think that I can turn a few thousand into a few million. That only happens to a few people. It can happen to anybody if you're willing to put in time and effort into studying this game. Okay, this game can be a lot more fun if you make a lot of money from it. And I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm just learning. I'm going to study a little bit. Okay, the little bit of studying, that's good. But the more that you study, the more time you dedicate, the sooner you really comprehend these chart patterns, your odds of success on every trade will go up. Your dollars of profit will go up. Even if you're trading with just 100 or 200 or 500 or 1,000 shares right now just to test, and you think I'm totally full of BS, please at least start testing different patterns like earnings winners and shorting pump and dumps. For me, those are the 2 patterns that are the bulk of my earnings. I try speculative trades every now and then. I do pretty well. Sometimes I don't do that well. But shorting pump and dumps and buying earnings winners, because I do it so often and because it's second nature to me, I give them more time. And even though I don't trade it perfectly, remember, I didn't even sell meat in the 2s. I sold it in the 190s. So when I'm buying in the 180s and selling in the 190s and thinking, it's just not a volatile stock, and then seeing it go up here, I feel a little guilt too. So don't think that I am by any means some master where I'm going to have these perfect sell alerts. But I am on the right track. And when meat goes up to 230, hell yeah, I'm going to brag about it because this is far and away best case scenario, but I was on the right track. And several students like Matt G, who's still long, and Akashic Trader, who are profiting and watching these video lessons and learning to do better. That's what I love. I love it when students do better than me. My business is teaching, not trading. That's why next year when I start with 12,000, if I make 50,000 for the year in trading profits, it will be a fantastic year. I have no idea. I have no expectations. But it's not about the dollar profits for me anymore, at least not personally. It's about the student profits, and I want you to be as successful as possible. I want more Millionaire Trading Challenge students. So please, I know I'm ranting a little bit, but I'm so freaking pumped that these earnings winner worked and this shorting this pump and dump has worked so nicely. It just really, validates everything that I've been teaching and everything that I've been working so hard for. So I hope you guys are learning and profiting. I'll see you guys in the chat room tomorrow. See ya.